Picture this. It's the spring of 1974 and Hollywood studios are buzzing about a Western unlike anything they've ever seen. The title? Blazing Saddles. The premise? A black sheriff riding into a sepia-toned town of bigotry and big hats. By the time you think you've heard every legend, Mel Brooks's wild humor, the fart jokes, the uproarious standoff, you haven't scratched the surface. Hidden beneath the laughs and the fourth wall crashing finale are secrets so bizarre they'd make the average cowboy spit out his sarsaparilla at the very start. Blazing Saddles didn't even bear that name. It was Tex-X, a direct nod to Malcolm X, penned by a young writer barely out of college. His vision flipped the Western genre on its head. A black lawman, armed with wit instead of six-shooters, policing a town that wouldn't even serve him lunch. Studio brass balked. They freaked out at the idea of mainstream audiences confronting racism through satire. The script landed in a vault and gathered dust, deemed too risky for a world still clinging to saddle-sold stereotypes. Enter Mel Brooks, a comedic firebrand facing his own crossroads. Fresh from a box office flop, he was broke, desperate, and about to give TV one last shot. When that Tex-X package touched down on his desk, he saw not just a movie but a miracle. Yet he also saw the dangers lurking behind every page. Nervous executives, potential boycotts, and a comic premise that could backfire spectacularly. So Brooks did what he did best. He armed himself with the sharpest humor he could muster and gathered a team ready to wage war on convention. The writer's room resembled a battleground. Imagine Richard Pryor, Andrew Bergman, Norman Steinberg, Alan Unger, and Brooks himself, each wielding jokes like weapons. It was as if they were celebrating chaos. Early drafts sprawled over 400 pages, nearly 8 hours of attempted film, packed with scenes so boundary-pushing even they weren't sure they'd survive a single studio meeting. They lived on Chinese takeout, caffeine highs, and the pure electricity of rebellion. Pryor's razor-edge takes on racism clashed with Bergman's film buff references. Steinberg and Unger kept things unpredictable. No one remembered who wrote what. Every line was a collective assault on politeness. Just when the script felt untamed enough, casting disasters began to pile up. Richard Pryor, Brooks's first choice for Sheriff Bart, was ruled uninsurable after legal troubles and rehab stints. He vanished from star billing, but not from the process. He joined the writer's room, shaping the film's fearless voice without stepping in front of the camera. Next up was Gig Young, a once mailed-in veteran whose first day saw him spewing green bile in the cell block scene. A public meltdown that revealed years of hidden alcoholism. Production screeched to a halt, and Young was out. He vanished from the set, and a few years later, would vanish from life in a tragic murder-suicide that nobody saw coming. Brooks was back to square one, deadline looming. In a last-ditch move, he called Gene Wilder. Wilder was out of the country, working on television, convinced his film career was behind him. Brooks flew to meet him, pleads were exchanged, and Wilder agreed to hop on a plane. He arrived in full costume, stepped onto the set, and instantly clicked. His chemistry with Cleavon Little, the serene and sharp-witted replacement for Pryor, became the soul of the film. Wilder's Waco Kid was equal parts drunken rogue and vulnerable soul, transforming potential disaster into cinematic magic. But out of the fire emerged the fiercest backlash. The first studio screening was a disaster. Executives sat stone-faced as a flurry of fart jokes filled the room. A horse-punching gag jolted the audience, and the word N-word echoed without apology. One exec quietly suggested burying the film. Another handed Brooks a typed list of demanded cuts. Remove the slurs, tone down the violence, excise the controversial campfire scene. Brooks nodded politely, pocketed the memo, and then crumpled it into a ball right there on the studio floor. Not a single joke would be sacrificed. His boldest move was a secret second screening, not for critics or stars, but for janitors, secretaries, and mailroom clerks. These were ordinary people unafraid of bold comedy. From the first line, they roared with laughter, rolling in the aisles, slapping thighs, gasping for breath. Word of mouth did the rest. Within weeks, studios were scrambling to release the film wide. The once-buried Western exploded across New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago, then spread to every town with a theater. Suburban audiences who were expected to remain silent ended up quoting lines for years to come. Even then, Blazing Saddles kept throwing curveballs. The film's villain, Governor Lepetamain, carried a name that sounded like nonsense. But true aficionados know it's a tribute to Joseph Pujol, the 19th-century French performer nicknamed Lepetamain, famous for orchestrating fart symphonies at the Moulin Rouge. Brooks layered absurdity with nerd-level Easter eggs. In one sequence, Mel Brooks himself appears in a Native American chief costume, reciting flawless Yiddish, flipping Hollywood casting history on its head. Another scene features Count Basie's jazz orchestra performing April in Paris in the middle of a dusty trail, decades before jazz officially existed in the Old West. And then there's Anne Bancroft, Brooks's wife and one of the only performers to earn an Oscar, Emmy, and Tony. She slipped on an uncredited cameo in the church scene, blending so seamlessly that film databases still refuse to list her. Fans submit screenshots, historians confirm her presence, but the official records remain silent. Her invisibility became part of the legend, a playful secret tucked into the margins of credit rolls. As Blazing Saddles rode its wild success, controversies kept surfacing. Decades later, HBO Max slapped a trigger warning before streaming the film, highlighting its use of racial slurs. Audiences erupted, some demanding censorship, others decrying oversensitization. Brooks predicted this in 2017, warning that you couldn't make a film like this today. Real comedy, he said, had to risk offending to challenge. Blazing Saddles still stands as proof. Laughter can disarm hate better than any warning. This is just the beginning of the weird, wild story behind the film you thought you knew inside out. From hidden titles and buried tributes to puke-soaked star exits, uncredited royal cameos, and fart-fueled genius, Blazing Saddles remains one of Hollywood's strangest triumphs. Stick around as we dive deeper into the secrets they tried to keep buried for 50 years, uncovering oddities that make this comedy legend more extraordinary than any Western tale ever told. But the wildest tales don't end with the film's release. Decades later, an old assistant editor, tucked away in a packed vault at Warner Brothers, revealed rumors of an alternate ending left on the cutting room floor. In this scrapped finale, Sheriff Bart and the townsfolk storm a lavish governor's mansion, only to discover it's built entirely of papier-mâché. The gag played as a tongue-in-cheek jab at the flimsy foundations of prejudice, but studio execs deemed it too on the nose. The footage vanished, and only a handful of storyboard frames survive in a dusty portfolio, now locked in private hands. Imagine that scene in living color. Walls crumbling, the bandit trigger-punched horse halfway through its loop, and Cleveland Little's eyes wide with that trademark mix of mischief and disbelief. That lost ending might have cemented Blazing Saddles as a postmodern masterpiece, but instead it remains the greatest what-if Hollywood never showed. Even more astonishing is how many improvised gems almost slipped through without a trace. Take the scene where the Waco kid, in a drunken stupor, swipes a sheriff's badge from a dead lawman's coat and pins it on Cleveland Little. The shot wasn't in any draft. Gene Wilder ad-libbed it on the first take. Mel Brooks was so thrilled he yelled, "Keep the sound on, just let him go." Unfortunately, the original camera mic failed, leaving the entire exchange muffled and nearly unusable. The post-production team spent 72 sleepless hours blending ambient crowd noise from other scenes to restore clarity. That frantic audio surgery is what lets us hear Wilder's sly chuckle as he hands over the badge, a tiny victory over technical chaos that became one of the film's most quoted moments. And then there's the sound effect that literally made audiences jump in their seats. During the climactic saloon brawl, someone rigs a real horse's hoof to punch through a wall. The thud on the plywood was recorded live, producing an unstageable impact that no Foley artist could match. Many theaters played that reel so loud, patrons thought the projector was breaking. A rumor spread that one early screening triggered a sprinkler failure because a mini-earthquake sensor misinterpreted the boom as seismic activity. True or not, the anecdote captures how Blazing Saddles blurred the line between cinema and real-life pandemonium. Of course, not every off-camera reveal is slapstick. The legal saga behind the villain's name, Hedy Lamarr, started with a furious call from Hedy Lamarr herself. According to court transcripts, the actress stormed into her lawyer's office on a Friday morning, ranting that Mel Brooks had hijacked her name for cheap laughs. She demanded $10 million and a public apology, threatening to attach her experienced legal teeth to every screening until the name changed. Brooks, worried about a costly injunction blocking distribution, quietly authorized the settlement. Reports suggest it wasn't money she wanted, but creative credit. Since then, unlicensed Hedley Lamar merchandise has popped up online. Unwitting fans thinking they're paying homage to the silent film star instead of Harvey Korman's fictional autocrat. Yet perhaps the most confounding secret of all lies buried in the dust of Paramount Ranch, where much of Blazing Saddles was shot. Early morning fog would roll in so thick that the crew had to pause shooting, convinced they were glimpsing actual ghosts. Locals claimed the land was cursed by an old western village that once burned to the ground. One day, a hired hand swore he saw a spectral stagecoach parked near the abandoned corral, horses freshly shod and bridled. Cast and crew spent that lunch break swapping paranormal sightings instead of swapping dialogue. Mel Brooks later joked that his real quest was a ghost hunt, not a comedy shoot. If any evidence remains, it's likely tangled in the underlying tracks of horse dung and long-lost dailies. Fast forward to the late 1990s, when a group of film historians tried to update the list of on-set fatalities. Beyond the usual sprained ankles and smashed fingers, they discovered a record of an uncredited stuntman who suffered a mild concussion during the famous cartwheel into a shotgun gag. The digital shift allowed them to freeze-frame that moment. You can see the stuntman's eyes roll back, the board splintering just above his head. He insisted on no medical attention, desperate not to derail the production. The healing was done in secret and off the books. Today, that unbilled performer's stunt reel is legendary in stuntman circles, a hidden footnote to the film's mantra of no rules, no apologies. Even the musical score carries buried treasures. That faint banjo riff you catch in the background of the marshland chase wasn't composed by Brooks's usual collaborator, John Morris. It was recorded by a session musician named Margot LeBlanc, whose name vanished from the credits in a clerical error. LeBlanc's parents fought for decades to prove she even played on the soundtrack. Only recently did they locate the original tape reels in a mislabeled archive box. Their son uploaded the clip online, where it went viral among cinephiles. Now, every anniversary screening includes a tribute title card dedicated to Margot LeBlanc, our banjo's secret star. All these hidden layers fed into the film's cultural resurrection. In 2014, a group of improv comedians mounted a live, unscripted remake of Blazing Saddles on Broadway. They promised no script, each joke conjured on the spot by audience suggestions. Reviews were mixed, but fans flocked to see how pure comedic chaos could reanimate Brooks's subversive spirit. At one performance, a latecomer suggested the sheriff chase a train piloted by Elon Musk. The cast obliged, and the audience tittered at the absurd collision of 19th-century farce and 21st-century tech satire. The image of Cleveland Little facing a Tesla steam engine upgrade drive captured the enduring flexibility of Brooks's original invention. Boundaries are meant to be blown apart. Meanwhile, streaming services wage their own battle over Blazing Saddles language. Some platforms offer a censored cut that mutes or replaces racial slurs. Others provide extensive academic disclaimers, inviting viewers to watch with a muted track on a second device reading historical context. Parsons and film scholars debate whether these modifications dishonor Brooks's barbed intent or protect modern sensibilities. The controversy reached a zenith during a 2021 film festival, when a professor live-tweeted a side-by-side playthrough, slur by slur, tracking audience reactions in real time. The result? A cascade of heated threads dissecting the thin line between satire and complicity. Yet for all the debates, a simple truth persists. Blazing Saddles endures because it dared to go too far. Every cut studio memo tossed aside, every scene improvised at breakneck speed, every lawsuit filed and quietly settled. All of it fuels the film's mythic status. And its influence has rippled through generations of creators, from Spike Lee's sharp racial satire, to Taika Waititi's genre-bending humor, to countless internet sketch groups who echo Brooks's fearless chaos. Cleveland Little himself left behind his own post-mortem epilogue. Before his untimely passing in 1992, he exchanged letters with Mel Brooks discussing a sequel idea. Sheriff Bart versus the Dawn of the Ku Klux Klan, in a riff on pastoral horror. Brooks shelved it after Little died, but the letters survive in private collections. They're filled with Little's trademark wit and humanity. Notes about whether a riding crop or a banjo would make a better weapon in a spooky plantation showdown. That unrealized sequel remains one of Hollywood's greatest lost treasures, a testament to the film's lasting urge to confront prejudice with laughter through every twist. Lost endings, ghost stories, improvised miracle shots, uncredited banjo licks, legal feuds, Broadway improvisations. Blazing Saddles proves that true satire is living art. It mutates, it offends, it evolves, and sometimes it vanishes entirely, only to return in younger, fiercer forms. Which begs the question, what's next for Mel Brooks's outlaw comedy? Will a new generation mine its trenches for fresh scraps of rebellion? Or will the vaults stay locked, the missing scenes stay lost, and the legends swell in myth alone? The frontier remains open. And for anyone bold enough to peek behind the velvet curtain of celluloid, the saga of Blazing Saddles still has trails to blaze. Even now, half a century later, the weirdest secrets behind Blazing Saddles continue to emerge, often when least expected. Take the restored 2004 DVD release. Studios marketed it as fully uncut, but eagle-eyed fans discovered a glitch, a single frame of a topless showgirl, a relic of an early screenplay draft, flickers for exactly 1/20th of a second in the finale fight. That flash of fringe and pasties became a cult phenomenon. Collectors argue over who first spotted it, and dozens of fan-made slow-motion clips pepper YouTube. The studio claims it's an optical illusion, but conspiracy theorists insist the original negatives must be hacked to prove the cameo belonged to an uncredited 1972 burlesque performer. Behind the scenes of that same DVD project lay another oddity. When Warner Archives scanned the original film elements, they discovered 2 more minutes of the campfire scene. In these deleted moments, Sheriff Bart narrates 3 alternate jokes so coarse that even Richard Pryor's writing room veto light would have glowed red. One gag involved plumbing analogies and a coyote skeleton. Another featured a mime act that lampooned silent vigilante tribes. These lines were cut to keep the film under 90 minutes, but archivists secretly preserved them on a restricted hard drive. Requests to view the footage require letters of recommendation from accredited film scholars, and only a handful have ever been granted clearance. The most unexpected revelation arrived in 2019, buried in a retrospective book on Mel Brooks's career. Author Lisa Marlowe uncovered a love letter Brooks wrote to his cast, sealed in an envelope at the UCLA Film Archive. Addressed to the outlaws of Saddle City, it praised each actor's bravery during the shoot. Brooks singled out Harvey Korman for enduring hours of crude prosthetic makeup that left him allergic to animal glue. Cleven Little for mastering a one-take harmonica solo. Gene Wilder for refusing to break character even when Greenball hit his cheek. The letter ended with Brooks's signature flourish. "You were all more daring than any six-gun could ever be. Love, Mel." That heartfelt note reminds us that behind the anarchy lay genuine camaraderie. Then, there's the audio commentary on the 50th anniversary streaming edition. Most commentaries dissect jokes and reference behind-the-scenes tales, but Brooks took it a step further. He narrates in character as multiple personas. At one moment, he speaks as the governor, sneering about his own lupetomaniac tendencies. Seconds later, he chimes in as Bruxall the critic, offering scholarly footnotes on the anachronisms. He even adopts a faux French accent to recite Joseph Pugel's biography in rhyme. Commentators and historians agree this multi-voice track is unique. No other director has ever tackled commentary as performance art, transforming audio notes into an extension of the film's layered humor. Fans have also unearthed a bizarre Easter egg in the film's script-like production stills. In a black-and-white photo of Mel Brooks standing beside a dusty saloon, a mysterious figure lurks in the background, a tall man in a trench coat, holding a camera pointed at the cast. Neither Brooks nor production records mention a second-unit photographer that day. Rumors circulated that this was Stanley Kubrick, secretly observing Brooks's chaotic shoot to study crowd reactions. Kubrick's estate has neither confirmed nor denied the claim, but collectors prize that single still, complete with annotations scribbled in red ink on the margin. Subject laughs at violence equals pure genius. Academic circles parse Blazing Saddles for deeper meaning. A recent graduate thesis argued that the film's anachronistic elements, jazz orchestras, modern slang, fourth wall breaks, mirror the postmodern turn of 1970s art. By blending time periods, Brooks invites viewers to question not only Hollywood history, but the construction of any narrative. Does a Western become more Western when it includes a Count Basie big band? Or does it morph into something else entirely? This scholarly debate underscores the film's durability. It can be as silly or as serious as the viewer demands. Perhaps the most heartwarming rediscovery involves a lost Q&A session. In 1975, Mel Brooks debuted Blazing Saddles at the Cannes Film Festival. After the screening, he attended an impromptu question and answer that drew an eclectic crowd: farmers from southern France, aspiring anarchist filmmakers, and a group of English school teachers. A black and white reel of that Q&A sat in a French archive until it was digitized in 2018. Brooks answers each question with rambunctious honesty. He confesses he wrote the entire campfire scene in 20 minutes, admits he still dreams in fart jokes, and reveals he wanted to include a giant cardboard T-Rex until the budget tanked. That candid glimpse at Brooks's creative ethos reminds us why he remains a legend. All these fragments, deleted footage, ghost sightings on Paramount Ranch, audio performances, hidden cameos, illicit love letters, coalesce into a living myth that transcends the film itself. Today, fan conventions host Blazing Saddles marathons, with live orchestras playing Basie's April in Paris interlude, followed by stage saloon brawls in which cosplay cowboys reenact denouements. Charity screenings auction off leftover props, the patched sheriff's badges, Cleveland Little's harmonica, the rubber horse leg from the punch-through gag. Proceeds support film preservation, ensuring that Mel Brooks's tapes, prints, and handwritten scores are never lost again. Streaming discussions remain as spirited as the dust-ups on set. On Reddit, a notorious thread titled "Bart's Boot Size" debates the improbability of Cleveland Little's cowboy boots fitting Dan Daly's stunt decoys. A cheeky mod posted side-by-side blueprints of foot molds, claiming the disparity reveals two different performers in the same scene. The thread exploded into floor plans of every scene, color-coded shot lists, and outraged fans insisting the filmmakers cheated by using a local stunt double without credit. The controversy has never been settled, yet it captures the enduring ethos of Blazing Saddles. Even half a century later, nobody agrees on exactly what happened. Perhaps the best testament to Blazing Saddles' ongoing oddity comes from an unlikely place: a farm in Kansas. A decorated Vietnam vet named Ray McAllister found an unmarked wooden crate buried in his barn loft in 1995. Inside lay a complete set of Warner Brothers press kits for the film, including promotional mugs, t-shirts, and clippings. Each item bore a serial number and a peculiar stamp, property of Special Projects Department. McAllister donated everything to the local historical society. Today, the exhibit features Wall of Trophies, an interactive display where visitors can try on reproduction costumes and watch interviews with village elders who remember the film's 1974 global tour. It's one of the most visited small museums in the Midwest, a testament to how the film's mystery endures far beyond Hollywood's backlots. And so, with every new restoration, convention panel, lost reel, or conspiracy theory, Blazing Saddles renews its claim as cinema's unruliest underdog. Mel Brooks once said that satire must be like a razor. It cuts, yes, but it also bleeds truth. He knew it might offend, might be shelved, or even banned. Yet he gambled on contempt and riotous laughter, and the house always won. 50 years on, the vault remains half open, promising more weird, wonderful secrets just waiting to be dusted off, spliced back into the reel, and unleashed on unsuspecting audiences. What else might be tucked away in forgotten archives, waiting for a bold historian or obsessive fan to stumble upon? The question is the point. If Blazing Saddles taught us anything, it's that boundaries exist only to be blown apart with humor, audacity, and a well-timed horse punch. So keep your eyes peeled, your ears tuned for the faint banjo, and your belly ready for laughter. Because the frontier of cinema is still wide open, and it never stops blazing.